I absolutely love people's stories. I think everybody has a story. Everybody has something to share. And I think it's even greater when someone doesn't realize it. And in the middle of telling the story, the light bulb goes off. Every single person has something to share that can help somebody else.
Welcome to the podcast where motherhood meets reinvention. I'm your host, Sharon Macey, and this is Mom to More. I'll be speaking with remarkable moms who have embraced the art of transformation, crafting their more by leveraging the skills they hone as stay-at-home moms. They'll share their experiences, struggles, and successes as they return to a former career, pursued a passion or hobby, or charted an entirely new path, giving you the clarity, motivation, and inspiration to help you answer the question, what do you want to do when your kids grow up? Welcome back to Mom to More. So, the longer I do this podcast, the more I meet moms who are like my soul sisters, moms who realize that figuring out what we are going to do when our kids grow up is a process. And it's not easy, but it's something that if we throw our hearts and souls into with a big dose of passion and a lot of small baby steps, it can be done. Which leads me to this week's guest. Kathleen Smith is the founder of MorphMom, a multimedia platform dedicated to educating, inspiring, empowering, and connecting women to help them discover their next steps. So y'all can see why I like this woman. It is a resource for women trying to decide what to do tomorrow, next week, next year. And after graduating from both Holy Cross and Georgetown Law, she served as an assistant prosecutor in Hudson County, New Jersey for 6 years. She stopped working following the birth of her second child and later discovered that re-entering the workforce would not be so easy. And I will second that. Kathleen quickly noticed that she was not alone and that there were, in fact, many women who found themselves in similar positions, struggling to discover their next steps. So she began to chronicle the inspiring stories of women, who she named Morph Moms, who managed to chart their own course with the hope of helping other women do the same. Since its launch in 2012, Morph Mom has become a platform to promote and support these women and their remarkable stories through a variety of mediums. And, no surprise here, Kathleen was also a stay-at-home mom. Well, hello, Kathleen, my soul sister.
Could not have said it better. True soul sisters, and absolutely thrilled that you came into our Morph Mom world and we met, and clearly we were meant to meet. It was fate.
Absolutely. And welcome to the Mom to More world. So I'm so thrilled that you're here with me today. We are totally running in parallel lines, and we're both empty nesters, so we have that in common. So I like to start with my essential mom question, and that is, how many kids do you have and where did you raise them?
So I have 3 kids. My daughter is 28, my son is 25, and my youngest son is 22. Raised all started in New York City, then to Hoboken, and then to Summit, but primarily all 3 were raised in New Jersey.
Gotcha. And why was it important for you to have that dedicated time with your kids? Did it something you just sort of fall into? Was it intentional? How did that look?
Sort of a combination of both, I would say. I loved my job. I loved being a prosecutor. I loved, especially when I was a juvenile prosecutor, working with the kids and in the cell. I loved it. It's a rehabilitative theory behind it. I really never thought I'd leave. So I worked through Sarah, my first child, and my mother and my mother-in-law were the babysitters. And so I would get up very early from New York or then Hoboken, and I would drive her wherever she had to be. But I also had to be in court, and it was getting really hard to get her where she had to be back in time, which everybody understands this and has been through this. And I'm very lucky that I had them doing it. But to make it to court, and then after court to then go pick her up, which was like an hour away, to come back, blah, blah, blah. So when I had my second child, I tried it for a little bit, and it was too much on them and too much for me. And it was just, and I realized at the time that not only was it too much on my mother and my mother-in-law, but I needed to be with my kids too at the same time. It was very hard for me to give it up, but I knew it was more important for me to give it up.
That is a struggle that a lot of moms have. There's some moms that are just like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom or home parent. And then there are other moms who just sort of interestingly fall into it. And I'd say you fall into that second category. Let's rewind a little. Tell us a little about what you did before you had kids, because it is fascinating to me.
Well, I'll back up a little bit even before that, which is how I got into what I'm doing. So when I was down, you mentioned I'd gone to Georgetown Law. I met my husband there. I did not do well in the classroom. I barely made it through the first year. I don't even know how I made it through the first year. It wasn't my strength. And I was really lost. Didn't even really want to know what I wanted to do with law. And an incredibly kind professor said, you know what, Kathleen, the classroom is not your strength. But Georgetown was well known for their sort of outside of the classroom clinical program. And they said, why don't you try clinical? And that may have been because he wanted me out of his classroom at the time. But for whatever reason, it was incredibly a generous offer. So I took him up on it. And I ended up teaching at a prison at Lorton down in Virginia. So instead of being in the class a lot, I was down at Lorton teaching. And I fell in love with going to Lorton. I fell in love with working with the prisoners. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I think it made me a better person. It made me realize a lot of things that I needed to learn, that, a lot of good people maybe do bad things. And everything about it was the best thing that could have happened to me at that time in my life. So it really led me into becoming a prosecutor and becoming a juvenile prosecutor with this rehabilitative feeling behind it, working with the defense attorney to help them. And I loved it. So that was sort of how I ended up doing what I did.
And what's interesting about what you just said? There's a huge mom element in that protectiveness, that rehabilitation, that wanting to help. So that tells me a lot about who you are, as a person. And I think that's beautiful.
Well, and I have to say I thank this professor way back when who sent me there. And it was, I learned a lot. I learned you can't be judgmental. There's so many more things in this world that you have to consider. And it was a gift to me to be able to work with them and to learn from them.
What is your one big takeaway that you got from working down at the prison?
I mean, I think it would be that it's not fair to judge, and it's only fair to always keep your mind open to forgiveness and rehabilitating and learning from them as well.
And you can rehabilitate for sure. All right, Kathleen, you had what I think is a really revealing pain point with one of your kids who didn't know what you had done before having kids. Can you share that?
Yes, it's humiliating too. Everything about this school is humiliating and really eye-opening at the same time. So as I mentioned, I have 3 kids, and this was my youngest. And poor Charlie, I didn't have a babysitter. It was just me and the 3 kids all the time. So everywhere I went, Charlie came. When I coached lacrosse, Charlie was on my hip. When I went to a meeting, Charlie was with me. So that Charlie, you would think, would have known me the best because he was with me all of the time.
Because he was attached to your hip, right?
Unfortunately, there's one thing he did not realize was there was life before kids. So one day I'm in the pickup line to pick up my two older guys, and Charlie's in the back, and a woman came up to me. Now, first of all, I didn't know her well, and I was so taken aback by this question, which is the first problem I have with this whole story. It really bothers me that this threw me. But she said to me, "So what did you do?" Why that bothered me so much, but I'm sure every working mom out there realizes, like me, like, who am I? I froze. I'm like, wait, who am I? What did I do? I don't know. Wait, I really wasn't sure for a minute, like how to answer that question. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Got myself together, and I said, well, I was an attorney. I was a prosecutor. And Charlie, without missing a beat in the backseat, he's probably 3 years old, said, why did you just lie to that lady? You didn't. That's a lawyer, not you. I'm like, so now the woman who I don't know is looking at me thinking I lied to her, that I made up that I was a lawyer. Like, oh my God, this is getting from bad to worse right now. So I'm so mad at myself for even second guessing who I was, because I really did. And I didn't.
Yeah.
And then questioning whether I should say that I was a lawyer, because I don't even know what happened to me. And then thirdly, my son telling her that.
Right. But why would you not tell her you were a lawyer? The reality was you were, and you were doing some really incredible work with young people who needed you.
But I think, and many out there probably can relate to this, I lost myself. I lost who I was. I really didn't. And that was like that moment where I realized I'd kind of lost who I was before. And that's okay, because at the time, that's what I was devoting myself to being with my kids. But looking back, it bothers me that I had such a hard time answering that question. And of course, now most of the people thought I was lying. Why I would lie and make up that I was a lawyer too. But thank you, Charlie, for that. That was great. And then telling a woman, oh no, I wasn't lying. I really wasn't. She's like, oh, great. I'll see you later.
Oh my gosh. She'll always remember you as the woman who thought she was a lawyer. So you've just talked about sort of failing in law school. And those are your words. And I think you really discovered something about yourself while you were failing in law school. So you obviously you taught at the prison and you loved it. And I want to quote you here. And I love this. You said, quote, "I didn't have many skills, but I was great in a jail cell."
I was never great with evidentiary rules or the basics of law. I probably was not very, very skilled at, but I just loved, and this has continued through to what I do today. I just loved to listen. I loved their stories. I loved what they had to share. I loved to just, that's where I felt I was at my best, when I was listening to someone and maybe getting the story out. And that was the one thing that I could do. The rest of it, I was not great, but that I could do. I could sit with them and I could be a part of it and I could share what was happening. So I live and die by the sort of thing that my father always said to me, which was, be interested and you'll be interesting. Now, I back that up because I think I probably spoke too much. I talked too much. So he's like, Kathleen, you got to listen. You have to stop talking. But as a result, I really, really took it to heart. And when you are listening, you are the best that you can be. You are the most interesting if you are listening to others, hearing them, hearing their story, who they are. So I think I attribute it all to my dad and that saying, and making me maybe talk a little bit less as well.
You probably didn't realize it then, but you were really fine-tuning your listening skills and your interviewing skills to lead you into MorphMom.
I think, and just the love of stories. I absolutely love people's stories. I think everybody has a story. Everybody has something to share. And I think it's even greater when someone doesn't realize it. And in the middle of telling the story, the light bulb goes off. And they're like, yes, I do have something to share.
And you know what's interesting about that, Kathleen, is what may be sort of very basic to you is revelatory to somebody else. And so you may think that it is just so, who's going to be interested in this? You'd be really surprised.
100%. Yeah. Everyone, that's what as I said, I've interviewed thousands of people over 12 years, all over the country. Every single story I have learned something from. Every single one. It made absolutely nothing to, like I would never have anything to do with my life or universe or what I'm doing. And I walked away having learned something. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I have learned as well. And I've witnessed over a decade. Every single person has something to share that can help somebody else.
I love that. So now let's talk about your very rich and varied mom skills. And how did you deploy them into MorphMom?
Well, one, which I believe just in general, is that, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I've always been a big thing with my kids. Like the failure is not trying. There's absolutely, once you've tried and you failed, that's a success. You gave it a shot. And I think that's a big thing I always did with my kids. It's not the outcome, it's giving it a shot. So I certainly jumped in, feet first with knowing that this could fail. And many times I've had to pivot because things have not worked out, but it's always with the intention of, if I don't try it, I have failed myself and my kids and everybody else. If I don't give this a shot, because then I'm not living what I'm teaching as well.
True.
I think that's one of the biggest things. I'm not scared of failing. I'm not scared of what people think. I'm more frightened of not giving it a shot, because I feel like giving it a shot will help somebody. And if I failed somebody.
So I'm going to pause here for a moment and ask you, how would you inspire a mom who is going through, like, thinking about, okay, my kids are getting older. What do I want to do for my next chapter? What is your advice to a mom who is like, but I'm afraid to try?
We're all afraid. So first of all, you're not alone. Every single person is afraid. I'm afraid. Every time I pivot, I'm terrified something is going to happen. But when you really sit down and think, what do you want your kids to, or everyone around you to see from you, who you are, that if you don't give it a shot, you're letting yourself down. If there's something in there you want to try, and who cares if it doesn't work? Now, again, there are things financially, you've got to be careful when you're doing it. If, you have to look at the financial ramifications and how it could affect others. But maybe with a baby step, giving this thing a shot, you'll at least know what direction it's going in. And if you don't try it, it's going to bother you forever. And if you did try it, and if it didn't work, you know that there's another road to take. So it's fate telling you this is now the direction to take. And I think that's what I would say. First of all, start with the baby step. You don't have to jump in all at once. Give it a shot. See how it feels. And if it doesn't work, it's the best thing that could have happened because you tried and now you know.
Right, right. And I think that that is so important for moms going through this. And I think it also goes back to women who have been home with their kids for like 15. I was home for almost 20 years. And you think, wow, I have lost who I am. I've lost my skill set. I'm irrelevant. But every person has a dream. Every person has so many skills, right? Just from doing the mom journey, that you can find things that you are really good at and decide, I'm going to start moving in that direction. And again, really good advice what you just said about baby steps. This is not a I'm now here, no, it's like tiny little baby steps, and you grow with each step and you learn with each step. I remember years ago, my son who played college tennis, he would always say, I learn so much more from when I lose a match than when I win. And I think that's in life the same thing. I tried things before this and totally failed,
Yeah.
but that was informative.
I agree. And even within what you're doing, you will probably, you're lucky if not, but most of us do. You have things will not work within the lane that you're taking.
Right.
Fine. I've pivoted. I mean, I've been doing this for 12 years so many times, and things have been great and things haven't. But I also know that since the things that I've tried, I've taken away what didn't work and what did work and used them for the next step. So it's all the building blocks on top of it.
It's all part of iterating. Yeah. So let's talk a little more about MorphMom. You've connected with so many women all over the place. You're an amazing interviewer. I had the privilege of sitting in, at the Boll and Branch in Greenwich. So let's expand a little more on what it is you're doing and what my listeners can take out of that.
So I'll back up a little bit and say how we've sort of morphed over the years. So it started with writing for the Huffington Post, and then I had a radio show for many years. We had a television show over COVID, and now we do and we used to have very big conferences. We have now since morphed again, and we do Instagram Lives instead of the television show, and a podcast as well. And we do events around the country where it's only about 50 women in sort of like a speaking salon community. And that's where we met. What I love is that I've learned over the course of the years what works and what doesn't work. I like what we've come to now with this sort of smaller group that we're doing works for MorphMom and what we do. And I love sitting in a room, sitting back and watching women connect, sharing their stories, inspiring others in the audience to share their stories. And then all of a sudden, no one even knows who the original speaker is with, because everyone is communicating, everyone is connecting, and really everyone feels on equal footing. And what I like about that is not just the pounding your chest like, oh, we're so great. We're on equal footing where we share our vulnerabilities. We share what hasn't worked. We share the trials and tribulations. And then we share the things that have worked, and we rejoice. And there's just something about it. It's my happy place to sit in that room and watch what happens with the women and know that the power of story and just how powerful being honest and open and vulnerable with your story can be, and how helpful it can be to others. So that brings me, I think, just the greatest joy of all. It's just watching it happen in real life. And I don't know if that answered the question, but that's...
Oh, absolutely. And what I love about that is you're so passionate about it. So clearly this is something that fills your heart, and it's helping other women, to figure out what are they going to do tomorrow, next week, next year. And you also, you talk to women about, are they going through a particularly painful time in their life? It could be a divorce or a death, or, kids are heading back to school. What is your sweet spot in terms of your demographic?
It's funny. It's grown. So originally, I would say it was probably 45 to 65 originally. With these events now, I'd say with like sort of the smaller events and coming to the different cities, we're getting a younger group coming in now. I'd say late 30, early 40s, late 30s. And I think I mentioned this before, they may not necessarily come for the whole day. They may not be interested in all of the stories. That's a very big commitment. But they may have kids still in school. So, during drop off and pickup, they'll say, can I come for a little bit? Is that all right? And I think they're just starting to get their feet wet a little bit. And I love that this generation at an earlier age is starting to think about what's next, or what they could be doing, or who they need to meet. or connections they want to make. So I'd say sort of late 30s, even early 40s now are sort of tuning in. On the other end, 65 to 70, as always. My mother is the original MorphMom at 81, has never missed one, and is a true MorphMom. Actually, throughout her life, raising 4 girls, was always doing something. So I'd say it's exciting too to see the younger women coming in. My daughter's 28, about to be 29, and she and her friends would come if they could get out of work, but they watch all the shows too. It can only help them. It's a generation of mentors as well for them.
True. And I also think it plants a seed in a younger person's mind about realizing, okay, I am going to dedicate myself for X amount of years and pause my career and be a mom and raise my kids. But that doesn't mean that avenues are closed to you. I think the world is a very different place now than when you and I were first raising our kids. Either we were working at home or we were working in an office, and we just didn't have the flexibility that people do now with everything online. And as bad as COVID was, it allowed more people to be home. I know people with some really young people with some really big jobs, and they're home 2 days a week and they're in the office 3 days a week, so they can at least be with their kids a couple of days a week. Yeah.
The flexibility. I mean, can you imagine if we had that flexibility? Yeah. It wasn't an option. It
wasn't. No,
and it
wasn't.
More cutthroat back then. I felt like when we were growing up, I think, you don't share secrets. It's you for yourself. And it's not like that. It never should have been. And we've opened Pandora's box, and it's not. Like you and I doing the same thing. We should all be doing this and all connecting and supporting. And it's such a better place because of it.
And now a quick word from my sponsor, Ally Shoes. I got to tell you, these are some of the most comfortable shoes I have ever worn. They're designed by women, for women, like finally, right? And engineered with perfectly placed padding, so I can literally wear these all day. And I cannot say that for other brands I've worn. And I'm not the only one giving positive reviews. InStyle, Business Insider, and CNN are all saying the same thing. Oh, and they have a really cool origin story as well. So flats, heels, boots, you name it, they have it. Ally is letting me share the love with all of you. Head on over to Ally, that's ALLY.NYC, where new customers and listeners of the pod will get $40 off your first pair of heels. All their heels, like Classic, Kitten, Bold Block, Sexy Slingbacks, with special code MOMTOMORE40, and 10% off your first pair of boots and flats, so 10% off of each, with special code MOMTOMORE10. Ally is reimagining how comfort and function support women every day, and I love that. Thanks to Ally for sponsoring this episode. Okay, Kathleen, I would love for you to give our listeners your top 3 hot takes on this whole MorphMom reinvention process and what moms can do starting now as they are starting to think about this future journey.
Okay, I think the most important thing is talk to everybody. Everybody. Ask any question that you have. They want to help. People are always scared to ask. If they don't want to do it or they can't do it, they won't. But 99% of the time, they're going to help you. They're going to talk to you. And if they don't know the answer, they're going to direct you to somebody else who does, because they want to help. So my number one thing would be ask the question. Talk to everybody and get a feel for it, how they did it, what they did, what didn't work, what did work, what steps they took. It is the most important thing. And then on top of it, you now have a connection with someone possibly in that field or in that area. So you've made an immediate connection, and it also makes them feel good to help you as well. Remember that part as well. People want to help you. I think that'd be my first thing. My second thing, it's funny, I think people come down on this 2 ways. Like, this is my year of no, or this is my year of yes. I'm going to say no to things I don't want to do and yes to things I do. I'm a yes man. I think, or a yes woman.
Well, that could get into people pleasing, which is a whole other topic. So
True. But I think when you are starting something, say yes. Say, it's maybe something you didn't expect you would have to try when you're getting into this field, but say yes and try it and see what you think. And I'm not talking about every single thing that's going to hurt, but when in this area of what you're looking into, say yes. Yes, I will. I'd love to sit in and help doing this. Or yes, I'd love to come volunteer and do this. I realize I won't get paid for a bit, but at least I can see what's happening. And yes, this might not be exactly the part I was looking in, but it's good for me to learn another side of this area. So when I say yes, I mean yes to this idea or this concept of what you're looking into. Don't don't rule things out, because things are so different now anyway. You need to see what's out there. And I guess my third one would be, and I mentioned this earlier about the baby steps. Don't jump in right away. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, because then it's not too late to pivot. And you're also learning as you go. And another thing, actually, I'm going to throw in one more. So when you're not sure, I'm going all the way back now to when you don't know what to do or where to start or how to begin. We mentioned we've all volunteered. We've all done something at home that's translatable to a skill, or maybe what you did in a prior life. Maybe ask that person in this area if you could bring that skill to what they're doing. Maybe you could bring something in. So maybe you were an accountant in a prior life. Can you help with the books? Or maybe you are a great organizer. Can you help with the store? Or maybe you were a copywriter, or you would, can I help with writing? Can I maybe blog? Can I edit what you're doing? Whatever it is, whatever the field is, look back to a skill that you had before and ask if you can bring it to them. And it's maybe something that they need. And now you have a door into this world that you're interested in entering. So I think those would be those have worked for many. And those are tips that I have heard from women that I've interviewed over the years that have really worked.
Yeah, those are so perfect. And especially the last one about volunteering and just putting yourself where you would like to be. Baby steps is so vitally important, because we're never really 100% ready to try something new.
Right.
And there is that jumping off point, but it's not really like jumping off a cliff. It's sort of like walking down the stairs, if you want to look at it, from a more granular perspective. So that was wonderful. Thank you for that. Kathleen, we are, go ahead.
Credit only that came from, as I told you, 12 years of interviewing women. Again, I've been very interested, and these are the things that I've learned from all of these women over the years. So I can't take credit. I give the credit to all the Morph moms over the past 12 years who've shared this with me.
Right. And actually, I'm going to throw in something that one of my guests said, Dr. Hillary Berger, who wrote Work Like a Mother. And she said that it is all interconnected. What you do before kids, what you do while raising your kids, and then what you ultimately are going to do in your next chapter of life. And that motherhood is an integral part of your career journey. And I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. That's great.
Yeah, right. Remember that.
Yeah.
Remember that. So, Kathleen, as we're drawing to a close here, I have a question that I ask all of my amazing moms, and that is, since this is the Mom to More podcast, Kathleen Smith, what is your more?
My more, as far as MorphMom is concerned, is to just get to as many more, and it doesn't have to be cities, towns, anywhere. I just want to get to as many places as I can and to share these stories and to grow this community around the country as we're doing it. And we do that virtually through a club right now. So any city I've gone to, you're part of the MorphMom Club. So you have a local network, but you now have access to any MorphMom around the country. So my more is also growing that as well as I'm traveling in person around the country. That's my MorphMom more. As another more, so I lost my two dogs, Huckleberry and Finn, last year in 1 year, and it killed me. And I think I want to, my more on that side is, and I just have to figure out where I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to start working at a shelter for dogs on my extra time, because I'm not ready to do it again. It hurt too much. But I think if I start helping at a shelter with dogs, I love dogs so much. I love animals. I would work on a farm if I could. But anyway, I can help animals right now. Like a farm sanctuary would be my dream. But realistically, a dog shelter closer to me than I could get to. Doing something with animals is what my other more is going to be.
How fabulous. I have not heard that answer before, so thank you for that. So please tell my listeners where they can find you online, how they connect with MorphMom, website, Instagram. Tell me everything. And folks, everything is going to be in the show notes.
Okay, so my website is morphmom.com. It's morphmom.com. And just for everybody out there, I do have to back up. MorphMom is a little bit of a misnomer too. It's really all women. So we share all women's stories. We're all moms in some way, right? We all take care of other people, but I do share all women's stories. So we include everybody in this world, because every story can help somebody else. So, but it is morphmom.com is the website. My Instagram is @morphmom. My Facebook is morphmom. I think I have a TikTok, but I don't know how to use it yet. Oh, my more is also going to be to figure out TikTok this year. So not Stay tuned. It'll be at MorphMom at some point.
Can we work on that together, please? I don't understand TikTok. I don't understand Threads. I know.
I can barely get a story up on Instagram, much less that. But I'd like to dance, so I would like to do some dancing things on TikTok. I think, like you, I am not a good Latin ballroom dancer like you are, but I do like to do musical dances that I learn on television.
All right, so we're going to be shaking it up here, girl.
But so yeah, at MorphMom at Instagram, at MorphMom at Facebook, we have events all the time, in-person events. Our next event will be, I think, towards the end of April in Atlanta. I'm not sure where we'll be this summer yet. It's going to be at the shore somewhere, or maybe in New York. And then come fall, we'll be in Dallas and I think Chicago. And the list continues. But we'll have an events calendar coming soon. But we would love for you guys to join us. And you can find out all about that at morphmom.com, and also on Instagram. It's all listed there as well. But I hope you can join us and just meet the most incredible women, hear the most incredible stories, be inspired, empowered, and ready for your next step. And for example, one of our incredible MorphMoms is Sharon. And I can't thank you enough for all you do, inspiring all of us, empowering all of us to take our next steps. So come join us with MorphMom and meet our incredible MorphMoms, including women like Sharon. Thank you.
You're sweet. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to attending more. I loved my first one. So there will be more for sure. Kathleen Smith, you are a kick in the pants. You are inspiring. You are the ultimate Morph Mom. And thank you for your time today. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your tips. I know everyone listening is going to get so much out of this.
Thank you for all you do and for allowing me to share what we do.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit follow so you'll never miss what's next. It really helps the show to grow. And if this conversation hit home, leaving a 5-star rating and review or sharing it with another mom makes a huge difference, and I appreciate your support. Thanks for listening in, and until next time, keep embracing your more.